Hello team, how's it going? Welcome back to today's newest video. Welcome to Combat Ready HQ. Please, if you could, like, share and subscribe. It really helps push the channel, helps push the videos, and I appreciate all of your support. Today we're going to be talking about my experience of joining the army. We're going to do sort of like a series throughout sort of joining the army, training, and then finally getting to regiment. What it was like, what I was feeling, and what I actually went through. So part one today is about actually joining the army and how I went about it and the sort of the experiences that I went through and how they have helped me. Joining the army back in 2006 is different to how it is now, but you can still take some bits away from it. It was all done through the Army Careers Office. I used to look at the Army Careers Office most probably daily. I used to have to pass it on the way to and from school. It was in Brighton Centre. I believe the Armed Forces Career Office is still there, but they've closed a lot of them down, and you now join through Capita. So you can still go and speak to them, but the application is done through Capita for the ones joining the army. But for me, I used to go there, and I literally was 15 3/4 to the day, because that's the earliest I could submit my application. So I would constantly keep an eye on it, and then as soon as I was 15 years and 3/4, I went to the application. I went to the careers office. I got the application form, filled it all out. It was a long application form, all about myself, my history. Then you had to pick 3 choices, and my actual initial first choice was the Household Cavalry Regiment, who I ended up with later on in my career, but not who I started my career with. And then second was REME recovery mechanic, and then a third choice was REME vehicle mechanic. I then submitted the application. That went through okay. Spoke to the careers office guy. He was an infantry guy. Gave me a little bit of a training program. And back then I was a skinny lad. I looked about 11, 12, but I was actually 15. I had such a baby face. Most people look like I shouldn't join the army. Skinny. Used to play a lot of football, run around with my mates all the time. I was never at home, always out playing, but I wasn't actually as fit as I thought I was. I always thought I was quite fit. Came in his training program, but back then there was no YouTube, there was none of this online coaching, no Instagram, none of that existed. And I didn't have really anyone to help me. So I was going on these runs, but to be honest, I think I was running for 5 to 10 minutes and that was it. But I thought that was good. And then I was doing quite a few press ups, but like I said, I was slim. I most probably weighed around 70 kilos, if not less, but I was still around 6 foot. Went to the careers office, did my barb test, and I scored very well on that. It was, I did actually pretty well. I could have gone to any regiment within the British Army. I could have done any trades pretty much from the barb test. For those who don't know the barb test, it's basically go and do loads of sorts of tests to test little bits of your sort of personality and knowledge of sort of the most basic requirements. Bill is taller than Ted, who is taller or who is smaller. There's a few maths questions. So I did well on the barb test. I then went and did the assessment centre down at Purbright. So I did mine at Purbright. That's the closest one if you're, down in the Brighton area, sort of southern area. So I got a train up in a suit. I got picked up from the train station, taken to ATR Purbright, and I actually suffered massively with anxiety. Still to this day, but I've got it under control. But I had severe anxiety. I'd always worry about the future, worry about failing, worry about what it's going to be like. Really, really bad. So if you're suffering with that, you can deal with it. Just go and do it, honestly. The more you do things, the better you get with it. You get coping mechanisms. So it's really, really, really worrying. Got to the assessment centre. I think one of the initial things we did was the medical. The medical was actually all right. Saw the doctor. He did the old ball cup test. So pull your trousers down. An old man. I'm 15, 10 months now, 15, 11 months, whatever. Pull your trousers down. All right then. And he's cupped my balls and told me to cough. That was all good. Checked out my heart rate. That was all good. Have to do a few lunges, squat. Make sure your mobility is good. You're moving properly. You then go and see a nurse. They ask you about your history. Have you done drugs? Have you had any major injuries? Anything like that. Then we sort of went on to a fitness assessment where, to be honest, it went tits up. Nowhere near what I like I was like throughout my career. I really had to train hard. Pull-ups, I thought I did quite well. The instructor just counted about one of them. I thought I did about 6, but I just wasn't quite lowering myself enough. He was really strict. That don't count, that don't count. We did like a mid-thigh pull sort of assessment. And that went pretty well. I did lift pretty strong on that. And then I did the run. It was a 1.5 mile run. So you did the initial warm-up with the PTI at their pace, and then you did a 1.5 mile run. And I set off out the blocks. I was near the front. I was like, I'm going to smash this. And then about halfway round, I just absolutely creamed in. And then I think I ended up coming in with a time of around 11:55. It was severely disappointing. 11 minutes 55. Did a few press-ups, sit-ups, and that was sort of fitness assessment done. In the evening, we got a brief on a grenade. So they give you a brief on a grenade, sort of the characteristics of it, and you have to make notes. And then the next day you'd get asked questions on it to see what your memory was like, what your note taking was like. Throughout the whole assessment as well, they are assessing you. So if you're talking too much, they make a note of it. If you're not paying attention, they make a note of it. The next day, I believe, I can't remember the days exactly, but we did some command tasks. Some of them were like, you had a sort of tripod of poles, and the tripod of poles the other side. You got to get your team across to the other side. One was the leader, the rest of you sort of had to follow. And there's a few other different command tasks. Little bit of tips for that is be the leader, have your plan, but ask around to see if anyone else has a plan. Ask for ideas. You don't have to take them, but it's always good to ask because someone might know something that you don't. Always have a timer. Give someone a timer. Right, you've got 5 minutes to complete this task. Right, you're the timer. Tell me every time a minute goes by. When we're into the last minute, tell me every 10 seconds how long we've got left, or something like that. Have someone in charge of equipment. Have someone in charge of a certain part of the command task. That's the best tips I can give you for that one. You then go and have lunch as well. You're always wearing a bib with a number on. Once again, they're always assessing you throughout. How you walk, how you move, how you talk. Right, whatever you're doing, they're assessing you. And then I went in for the interview. And I think the interview went quite well. Once again, all suited and booted. Where do you want to go? Why do you want to go there? Actually, before that, I did a maths test because 2 of my choices were REME, Recce Mech, and Vehicle Mechanics. I had to go and do a maths test as well. So if you're doing a sort of a specialist trades, air technician, mechanic, anything like that, you have to do an extra maths test. Did that, passed that. So we're going back a little bit as well before the interview, sorry. And then when we did the eye tests and I failed. So you know the book with the sort of circles in, all different colours with the numbers in, completely failed. I've got a colour perception disorder. I got the first one right, which is the complete easiest of all of them. And the rest of them I got wrong. So out of 25, I got 1 right. So then had to go on to do another test for eyes. It's 3 dots. All 3 different colours, and then I'd have to tell him which one was the white one. Failed that. They then told me I couldn't go to the Royal Armoured Corps to be the Household Cavalry Regiment. So I couldn't do that because of the night sights in the vehicles. So failed that. We then had the interview. Went to the interview, like I said, all suited and booted. Asked me where I want to go, why do I want to go there, a little bit about my background, family, where have they been based, what have they done, what equipment do they use. Answered all those pretty questions pretty well, and I think I walked away with a C or B grade. And they just told me at the end, you have passed. You go back to the Army Careers Office and you will then arrange a start date and exactly pinpoint the regiment that you're going to go to, because obviously the Household Cavalry Regiment just wasn't going to be an option for me because of the night sights. They said they're on the vehicles. Quite funny because I ended up in the Household Cavalry a bit later on in my career. Went back to the Army Careers Office thinking, do you know what? I'll just go REME. They're my 2 second choices. I want to be a wrecking mech, pass the maths test, pass the barb test, pass all the fitness requirements for that. I want to go Army Foundation College in Harrogate. So this is around June, July time. I was like, I really want to go. I want to join the Army straight away. I don't want to go college. I don't want to be sitting around doing another job. All I want is Army, Army, Army. Got to the careers office. He's like, you can go REME, but there's no spaces left in September. So you're going to have to wait until January. And I was like, I don't want to wait. I don't want to be sitting around. I want to do something. I want to join the Army. He says, well, you could do anything you want in the Army. Absolutely, pretty much anything. Here's a long list. have you heard of the Royal Artillery? And as I said, funny that, my dad actually mentioned that to me a few weeks ago. I said, sounds pretty good. Would you be interested? Yeah, possibly. Do you think you could do it? Yeah, possibly. Okay, good. Here's your paperwork you signed for September. Because he knew I wanted to get in September, but he obviously had numbers to fill for artillery. He'd already done the paperwork. I was just turned 16, easily influenced. And he's just like, yeah, you're going, here's your paperwork September. So that's how I ended up in the Royal Artillery. It actually wasn't one of my choices. He just sort of knew he was going to persuade me, already had the paperwork filled out, and I ended up in the Royal Artillery and did that until around 2015 when I transferred, but that's a later video. Come out of that, went home extremely happy. I'm joining the army, I'm going to be a soldier, I'm going Afghan, all this and that. Went back in August, I think it was the 30th of August, signed my oath, and then that was when I was officially in the army. So back then, you sign the oath down at the Army Careers Office. Go dressed all suited and booted, please. Make sure you're nice and smart. So we did that, but they don't do that in the army anymore. If you're joining the army now, you'll do the oath of allegiance on the first day of your training at whatever establishment you're at. You'll all stand up, read out the oath, and then you'll sign it. But when I did it, you went down to the Army Careers Office, did that on the 30th of August, and then on the 10th of September, I believe it was, went up on the Sunday, basic training, Army Foundation College, Harrogate. But that is part 2. We'll go into that. But what I'm trying to say is, you don't have to be the fittest. Right? Please train hard and try and be the fittest. But if you're not, try not to worry about it too much, because I was extremely unfit. I thought I was fitter than what I was. Really embarrassed myself at training. I never really actually used to talk about it, but now I'll be open. Who cares? And I managed throughout my career get that down to my fastest mile and a half of around 7:30. Then it changed to the 2K. My fastest 2K was around 6:40, 6:50. So even though I went from there, I ended up here, one of the fittest in the units I was in, extremely fit, nearly did, it's so, don't worry about it. If you suffer of anxiety, don't worry about it. Just turn up and do it. If you're really, really worrying, that's fine. I used to get severe nerves, absolutely horrendous, sometimes cripple me. I'd go over them in my mind. But then I just somehow found a way of forcing myself to do a thing. I had it throughout school, severe anxiety throughout school. And I managed to do it, and I attended. And look, I passed assessment centre first time. I got into AFC Harrogate, and I managed to have a really good, successful career and done some amazing things. Got myself extremely fit. So just turn up and do it. If you're worried about joining the army, I'm not fit enough quite now, just put the application form in. One, the process is a lot longer now. Like I said, I put the application in at 15 3/4. I was in the army at 16 2 months, I think, July, August. No, I was in the army at 16 and 3 months. So it took me around 6 months, but it took me around 4 months to pass. I just had to wait to sign my oath and then wait for the start date. That's how quick it was back then. Now it's a lot longer. So if you don't think you're fit enough, just go and apply, because if you apply, that give you a kick at the arse to go and do some training, get a coach or something. If you're scared about the assessment centre, just pack your bag and just go. It's actually not as scary as you think, but I still massively suffered with it, but I managed to pass. Worried about basic training, just attend. Trust me, it will get easier. But yeah, that was the process for me. From start to finish, 15 months 3/4, 16 3 months, I was in the army. It was like 16 3 months, 3 days I was in the army. Like, literally in training. Now it's a lot longer, which is quite sad. Assessment centre was obviously trained ever so slightly. It's now done around the tests of the new sort of RFTs, the role fitness tests, instead of the old sort of AFT and the mile and a half run we used to do. But that's how it was for me. Really nervous, but also really excited when I joined. I was literally getting our bus home from the careers office when they told me I was in. I got my start date with a massive smile on my face. Most people look like a right idiot on the bus. And I was easily influenced. And to be honest, I would tell you, don't let them easily influence you at the careers office. Go for the choice you want to go. But I am glad he ended up putting me in the artillery, and he didn't even persuade me, he just put me in. The paperwork was already done, but I'm glad he did, because I had an amazing career as a forward observer in the Royal Artillery. One of the best jobs there is in the army is being a forward observer. Trust me, it really is. So I'm glad about that. But if your heart is honestly set on a career and a certain unit, stick with it. Don't let them persuade you just because they need to fill numbers. Capita is tough now with applications. Stick with it. All right, just stick with it. Don't pull out your application because it's taking too long, because I'm telling you now, you'll have an amazing career in the army. So just stick with it and just ride it out. Feeling nervous, stick with it, ride it out. Don't think you're fit enough, train harder, stick with it, ride it out. You will have such an amazing career, I promise you. That's the end of today's video. That was sort of my experience of how I went through phase 1 training. We're going to talk about part 2, which will be basic training. Will be a bit more exciting in this video. My experience is how tough it was. You know, did we get hit? Did we not? And everything and everything. I'm going to tell you how phase 1 was and what I can remember of it. And then we'll do a little bit more. Maybe we'll do another video just on sort of phase 3 and phase 2 in the army. But hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Once again, thanks for all your support. Thanks for watching. Check out our merch on our website. Check out our coffee over on our website as well. Join the free community Discord. Join Patreon if you want to support the channel a little bit more. For £1.50, you can get early access, ad-free and exclusive content. Or you can just become a channel member and support us that way. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.